And action.
Alright, so my number 2 film of 2014 is one that took me by surprise. It's A Most Violent Year by J.C.
Oh, I thought it was going to be that one.
Yeah, you were thinking. I know that when I told you I watched it, I think I expressed that I was pretty impressed by it. And this is a filmmaker. This is only his 3rd movie, I learned. J.C. Chandor, writer, director. His previous work includes All Is Lost, the movie with Robert Redford. I've never seen that one. That came out last year, no? And then you've got a movie called Margin Call, which I also
saw that one.
I'm not familiar with this guy's work at all. So you've seen everything that this filmmaker.
I haven't seen all. I can't get myself to see All Is Lost.
I thought you saw it.
I know it's.
I thought you see it, and then you saw it. I thought you told me you saw it.
Did I? I think I told you I was gonna see it, but then I never saw it.
You didn't tell me that. I thought you saw it. This is big for me. I need to process this.
Processing emotions.
Print out a little receipt. A Most Violent Year. I remember first seeing the trailer and being kind of intrigued by the look of this movie. It kind of has a classic feel to it. It stars Oscar Isaac, who is probably the actor that, like, going back to last year, the Drive, you see him a little bit in Drive, and then you also see him in Inside Llewyn Davis. That was my first, okay, this is what this guy's capable of. And then seeing him in this, with that hair, but really, really nice performance. I was really impressed with Jessica Chastain, who she continues to impress, has quickly become one of my favorite actresses working today. But I really like the dynamic between the two of them. You got this guy who's got these morals, this code that he likes to live by, and he lives in this world and works in this world where nobody holds those same ideals or honors them the way that he does. And he's trying to be the change that he wants to see in the world, and just do it right, do it without being dishonest, and be I don't know. It seems like maybe this character's dad told him you have to be a man of your word. You can never tell a lie. And then his dad died or something, and then he just held on to that his whole life. I can understand how something like that would happen with how kids are impressionable with those kind of things.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I thought about. But yeah, I love their relationship because she's it's almost like he married into money or something. Like she had more money when they got married. And she lets him be the man, even though she does things behind his back. And I don't know. I loved the way that when she finally told him, or revealed later on in the story that she did something that upset him. I don't want to reveal too many details of the plot, but she did that character really, really well. And you've seen this one, am I right?
Yep, I saw it. I saw it last month.
Okay. What did you think of Most Violent Year?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really liked it. It's not on my top 10 list, as you probably have guessed. It was number 16, actually. Again, it's because it's such a great year.
Yeah.
But also because, well, it's not really anything that it did wrong. It's a really, really... It's a very solid movie. It's a great drama. Again, it's not trying to be anything more than it is. You know what I mean? It's just trying to be a good drama. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's the reason why it reminded me of a movie of old. I mean, it takes place in the early 80s or mid-80s.
1981.
But early 80s, and maybe it's just because it's no nonsense, just trying to
no nonsense is a good way to describe it. Almost like a Sidney Lumet film. I've heard some comparisons to that. I said James Gray also, but James Gray that's in a more modern sense because James Gray also brings about a 70s cinema type feel. But I think both of them, and especially in Most Violent Year, I could see Sidney Lumet making that in the early 80s because Sidney Lumet is also he also made no nonsense type dramas. It's pretty straightforward in its approach. But in that comes a lot of emotion, that comes a lot of thematic richness. Oscar Isaac's character gets what he wants, but not without some serious damage involved.
Yeah, like that's the whole thing. He's trying to do it right, whereas he's surrounded by competitors, and even the law is sinking to a level that he thinks that there's a moral high ground that these people should walk on. He's got he's trying to build this oil business, or not an oil business, but like for heat homes, that kind of oil to provide in homes. And the people in the neighborhood, the other competitors, are stealing from him, and he doesn't want to be that kind of person. He doesn't want to use violence. He doesn't want to use intimidation tactics. And all the while, he's being investigated because there are so many of those practices going on with the competitors and everything. It's got some of my favorite scenes of the year. Two that come to mind are the one instance where he goes into the room, where he calls the meeting, where he gets the meeting together.
Okay.
Basically, it's just like, guys, just not.
Made me think of The Godfather, the meeting of the families.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like that.
And
yeah.
He doesn't come in with anything to offer other than the possibility that these guys have some respect for what they're doing and some honor, like he does. He's trying to sell that to them. And like, I don't know, you're watching that and you're like, this guy, like, what does he expect from these guys? These guys are crooks. Right. They make a living off of stealing from people with overpriced necessities and things like that, things that people need. But even more, the scene that I liked even more was the one exchange between David Oyelowo and Jessica Chastain. He plays this a
district attorney, right? District attorney. He's investigating all these oil companies, especially Oscar Isaac's character's company. He's investigating.
Yeah, because it's grown so quickly, so they're like, they've got to be doing something illegal. So they go to search the house, and they're having a children's birthday party. So it's just the exchange where she goes out, she has a cigarette, and she's talking to him about respect. And the way that she ends that conversation was just perfect.
Yeah, it was kind of like a dichotomy between how Jessica Chastain's character handles situations, like pressure situations, and how...
Or like a dying deer on the side of the road.
Yeah, and Oscar Isaac hesitates to shoot the dying deer, and she just, I think he's gonna beat it or
he's
something.
Use
Is he have a gun too?
To smash
tire iron,
but
and she just shoots it.
How am I gonna do this? Like, it's just a terrible thing, and she's just like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And that's kind of foreshadowing for things that happen later on in the story, where she's just like, all right, this is how you're gonna do it. Like, I think she even calls him a pussy at some point. Like, she really kind of tries to cut his balls off, but maybe she's just trying to light a fire under his ass. Like, the one part where he tells her, like, all the things that I've done for this family, like, everything that I provided for you, and she kind of just laughs it off, like, you provided for me. But at the same time, you get the sense that they do love they do love each other, and they're...
Yeah, there is a love there. There is a respect for each other, but I think that her character's frustration is that while Oscar Isaac... I should just get the name... Abel, right? Well, Abel...
And Anna.
Wants to do things... Yeah, Anna Annabelle. Well, he's trying to do things the right way. For her, it's like, this is the real world, and this is the real world of New York City, 1981. It's all corruption everywhere, and you want to try and make it in this business by doing things the right way. There is no right way, and he comes to understand at the end where it's like, he's like, I want to do things the most right way. There's so much moral ambiguity there. You know what I mean? And it kind of makes you think of how many businesses justify slightly illegal activity by saying, that's the most right way to do it. We're doing things. We're not doing things the ultimate 100% right way, but it's the most right. It's the best we could do.
Yeah, these guys are realistic about it, and if it's kind of if everybody's doing it, then it's okay. Something like that.
And it's kind of a reflection about businesses and corporations in America. That's kind of the mindset. I think it really reflects on the nature of capitalism in this country. Yeah.
I think it represented that well. Just a really solid movie. I want to talk more about it, but I know you want to get into your number 2 pick.
Oh no! I mean, if you want to wax ecstatic, they say wax.
I'm not sure where you're going.
if you want to, ramble on about it, I got some time.
I really liked the one chase sequence where he finally finds.
Okay, yeah, through the.
He finds the guy that's been stealing from him.
Right.
And he chases him down. The whole time he's chasing him, you're thinking, like, what the hell is he going to do? He doesn't have a gun. He's in a car. This other guy has a gun. You can assume he's a thief. These guys have been robbing these oil trucks with weapons. So I think it's just like at that point, he's so fed up, so frustrated, and so curious, like, who's doing this to me? Where are they taking this? And he's got nothing else to lose. So he's just like, forget it. I'm just going to go for it. Even though this is dangerous, even though I'm risking my life, winds up getting the person in a position where he can just take them out. Got a gun to their head. He wants to. He's like the classic "Who are you working for?" thing, and he sticks to his beliefs. It's kind of like Batman or something. Like he doesn't want to kill anybody. But and then after all that, it's like you're just going to let him go. And I found myself saying, like, just do something, don't just let him go.
Yeah.
All that for nothing, like, I don't know.
Yeah, as the viewer, you want like something to happen, but it's like that. It's like it calls into question like your morals and how you view things ethically, because he's trying to do things the right way, but you're like, come on, do the thing that I expect you to do. Shoot the guy in the face. That's how it works in these movies.
It's kind of weird though. Like I wonder how often this kind of happens where he does the right thing. He doesn't kill the guy, and in the end, the guy winds up telling him, like, I work for myself, and I was selling the stuff to this guy, like to tell him the truth, just out of appreciation for not being murdered. So with that, he's able to find out who was taking the oil from him and confront him. And I don't want to reveal the end of the movie, but that was something that I kind of saw coming. Because that one character was kind of a little weird the whole way through, but the way it ended, the mixing of blood and oil, that was there will be blood.
there will be blood.
kind of reminded me of that, but I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I would say the reason why it may not be rated as high for me is because I thought, some stuff like that, I felt like I was like, it's almost a little bit too on the nose, but I thought it was a really strong film, and in a lot of respects, a great film. What I said when I wrote about it, I said that it was like one or two spoonfuls for me from being like a great film, from tasting like a great cup of coffee. You know what I mean? There's like one extra element missing, and I would say that I don't know if it's like anything that's missing. I just think that he approached everything as well as he possibly could have. It's a really well constructed and crafted film. I just think that I got the message almost too clearly. You know what I mean? Like I got
something to work out in your head. Yeah, I guess because it's all right there in the movie.
And I had a little bit issue with like the structure of the film at a certain point, because Abel would go out and do his thing, come back home to his wife. Come back, and I get like the thematic what's going on here from a thematic point of view, because he always has to go back to his wife and tell her what happened, and I get that. But like from a structure standpoint, it gets kind of like laborious. And I was never bored, I was entertained, but I would say like the process of going back and forth like that felt just a little bit laborious. I wanted them to mix it up a little bit, or I felt maybe like you don't need to reinforce this theme that between what's going on between Anna and Abel. I don't think you need to spell it out that clearly. Obviously, she's the stronger one, maybe the one that's less morally, the one who sticks less to her morals. Yeah. You know what I mean, or is more loose in that sense. So yeah, but other than that, it's hard to complain about a movie that just gives you so many great things. And it's a great drama. And performances, Chastain and Oscar Isaac, and Isaac. And I don't know if you noticed, but the cinematographer of A Most Violent Year was the same as Selma, Bradford Young. So he had a pretty good year. That's two well shot films, and taking place in two different eras, but like 60s and 80s, And and it's interesting also because David Oyelowo is in both Selma and Most Violent. It's I think there's someone else. I think there's also someone else in both movies. I can't remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe just those two. I was like, wait a minute. That's
Nobody else jumped out at me.
Yeah.
But you might be right. There's a lot of people in it.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to Google a most violent year, and I wrote a most wanted year.
Most wanted, yeah.
I googled a most wanted. So that's confusing.
Most wanted man.
It was like that. Yeah, it was like that year when there was like a single man and a simple man or
Coen Brothers movie.
A serious man. Mm-hmm. That came out the same year, and I was so confused.
I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was about a gay British teacher.
I was also surprised to see Christopher Abbott from Girls in the most violent year.
Christopher Abbott. Oh, that's him. I didn't even realize that's him. He's not in Girls anymore.
Oh, he's not? I haven't watched it like halfway season 2, but yeah.
Sorry to...
Pretty good, yeah. Alright, so number 2, that was 20 minutes by the way. That's good though. It's your number 2 movie. You have a lot of reasons why you like it. And I have a lot of reasons for liking this movie. Great segue. Under the Skin, director Jonathan Glazer. That's my number 2 pick. You mentioned it before. It's on your list too. I'm glad it's on your list. I didn't. When you said you're about to watch it, I was like, "Ooh, I wonder how he's going to take that film," because it's a very visual film. The story unfolds in a very visual way, and you don't get much information through dialogue.
There's like almost none.
Yeah, there's almost no dialogue, and the dialogue is like mostly incidental. It's not really what's being said is not really important to the story. It's just kind of like her conversing with like these men, these Scottish men. Watching the film, I was kind of in awe of it, like because it was just taking me to a place I had no idea where I was going. I literally had no idea what was going to happen to me when I was watching it. And then there's a scene in Under the Skin that shocked me so much that I had to pause it.
Really?
I paused it for a second.
Talking about.
And I was watching it via iTunes, by the way. But I paused it. It's when the guy follows her and gets submerged in that liquid.
The guy from before.
He sees the guy from before, and that's shocking. Okay,
yeah.
But then the guy's bones, poof, it just becomes like this saggy thing. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck am I watching? I had to stop and just like collect myself because I was like, whoa. I don't understand what's happening. What's happening to me? Like I just felt weird watching that because like it just felt so real.
Yeah.
That it felt too real, And I was just really shocked by that. Like it just really it really caught me off guard.
Yeah, because
I think
it's been so slow up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
Even when things are happening, it's happening at a very gradual pace.
And it's very dreamlike. It's almost dreamlike. Like this isn't really, that's not really happening.
Yeah.
Like there's this kind of like, but it's also gripping. I don't know. It's slow, but if you
not to its detriment. I'm not knocking the film by any means. I love that movie.
But if you get with it, you kind of get lost in it. You just kind of like find yourself.
That's the better word for it. It's like it's deliberate. It knows.
Yeah.
It's not It takes its time with those scenes, like especially the one where the people die when they're about the ocean, they drown, and the kid, the baby.
Oh my god!
I know that must have been tough for you to watch.
That's another scene that's just This movie is just full of shocks, but I think that scene is so important to the film because it shows just how little connection this character played by Scarlett Johansson has no emotional connection with this world at all.
Right.
She's all about
this world.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great way of showing that.
Yeah.
And what really got to me about Under the Skin is like thinking about it afterward. Yeah. It's funny how literal that movie, the movie's title is, literal and metaphorically, the title works because like. Under the Skin, there's nothing feminine about her.
Yeah.
Under the Skin,
yeah.
And there's under the skin, there's a lot going on, like beneath the surface of this film. What it kind of all dawned on me, and I mentioned this again when I wrote about it, because it just kind of clicked. Like, what there's like this whole subtext to Under the Skin, because when it was coming out, what was the big thing about it? Scarlett Johansson's gonna get naked.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's all I heard about it from, like, trade sites and all that, and entertainment news sites. Ooh, Scarlett Johansson takes her clothes off in this film, and yet the film is a commentary against that bullshit.
Yeah.
It turns that idea completely upside down, because she's the one who's preying on these men.
Right.
She's not the one who's getting preyed on. These men think they're preying on her, but then as soon as they try to go after her, that final step, they get submerged in the liquid. And even when she tries to become in touch with this world, and she finds herself, slowly, like, immersed, like, getting really involved with this world. She starts to
trying to eat the cake.
Try to understand it.
Understand her body.
But it just doesn't fit. It like, she's not of this world, Yeah. But I think it's also a commentary on femininity, and how, like, there's that idea that the separation between men and women, and how men can also often feel like make women feel like they're not of this world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a man's world, not a woman's world. You know what I mean?
Watching the movie, you start to feel a certain way when she finally finds somebody who's willing to get into her van, because it's like the kind of person that's going to go into the van is that kind of a person, like, kind of like sleazy's, just skis balls, and you're kind of rooting for, like, yeah, that guy deserves his fate, because he just wanted to fuck you and then go. That was that. Like, that's a slime ball. He deserves that. But then you get the man with the disfigured man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what does it for her. Like, after that, she's like, she lets him go.
Right.
And like, all the other times that those guys are walking, especially that guy who's, like, dancing as he's sinking in the liquid there. You're happy that these guys are, like, fuck these guys. But then this guy, you're like, oh no, not you, not this poor soul who never heard a fly. The fly winds up having the imagery there, the visual touch of the fly that's trapped in the window. That was a nice touch. But anyway, when she lets him go, that's like something clicks in her head, and she's looking in the mirror. She's like, what am I doing? And why am I doing all this stuff? Really, really powerful stuff. It's probably the only movie where you're going to get something like Scarlett Johansson full frontal nudity, and you're not going to get an erection at all.
No, I was not very aroused.
Yeah.
Or I was not aroused at all. I wasn't very aroused. I wasn't aroused. I should stop saying aroused, but aroused. I just think that, the ending is just alone just kind of tells you everything you need to know about what this movie's trying to say. She gets, I'm going to spoil it. She gets set on fire.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't really spoil this movie because it's so off the wall.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't want to know what happens at the end, but at the same time, it's like, that's really not a big moment. Like, that's a moment where you're watching it end and you're like, huh. So
yeah, I was like, Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. Because it's, someone finally tries to, like, go after her. She's not in her element where she can, like, submerge one of these people into the water
or she, like,
or whatever.
These guys in, like, a sexual trance. Here's somebody who's finally preying on her. Once she's stopped, she sees being a predator, and then she was kind of neutral about it. She's just kind of trying to understand this world,
right?
And then
she was the one.
She's the hunted. She's not, she's not trying to. She has no mission. She's just aimlessly walking around, and that's interesting too, because it's like she doesn't really like. She doesn't fall in love with that one guy or anything like that, but he's nice to her, and he provides her with shelter, and he's a companion, helps her understand. Like, there are some moments where they're I guess they're at the castle or something like that, and they're just together, and you're like, that's good. She's seeing what this world has to offer.
Right.
And then after their failed attempts to have sex, and then she realizes that she's got this anatomy, but it's not functioning. So then she's just kind of wandering around in the woods. This guy comes along, and then praising her. And then it's like it's a classic human thing where it's like we fear what we don't understand. You know, he's terrified, and then he just what do you do to something that you're afraid of or that you don't understand?
Yeah,
you kill it.
You set it on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a loaded film. It's loaded with a lot of things to talk about. I'm sure whenever I get around to watching it a second time, or if you watch it a second time, there's going to be more things to talk about. I think it's going to be one of those types of movies, and that's why it's my number 2, because I feel like it's going to be a movie that we're going to be talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what's your number 1? What's the number 1?
My number 1, no surprise. It's Inherent Vice. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh
boy. The previous films that he's done. I don't know if you're familiar with this filmmaker. He Boogie Nights, Magnolia,
Heartache,
There Will Be Blood,
Punch Drunk Love,
The Master. I don't know if you caught.
He made The Master.
Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah. Amy Adams.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. No, was it the best movie of
Kevin
the year?
J. O'Connor.
Probably not. But was it my favorite movie of the year? 100%.
I see.
Yeah, it's shut up. It's a movie that I've been looking forward to for like 2 years. And then usually when that's the situation where it's like you're looking forward to something so long, your expectations are so high that you're going to be let down. But I wasn't. And I think that deserves a number 1 spot because this movie is everything that I wanted and more. As a fan of his work and just as a fan of movies, this was a fun ride. You got like all these different characters working together. Basically, like not what I expected because I was kind of thinking it was going to be more of like an ensemble cast where they're all interacting with each other. But it's kind of like a blending of his styles. Because in the beginning you have like these Altman-esque movies where it's like all these characters, and then his last 2 movies, or last 3 before this one, are just focusing on one character or 2 characters. So now it's like you've got this one character, Doc Sportello, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he's kind of trying to follow these breadcrumbs, these wildly spread breadcrumbs, and he's encountering these different people. And does it mean anything? Not really, because it is a stoner detective noir where everything is kind of hazy, everything is kind of confusing, very confusing. So you don't really know where you're going, but you also don't care because it's such a fun ride.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I'm not surprised it's your number 1 pick. I think I could have guessed that from the outset. I think it's great that like. Movie comes out that you're really looking forward to. You're looking forward to it all year, and then it finally comes out, and it does everything you want it to do. And you saw it a second time, right?
Yeah,
and
that was what we talked about it. That I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like the second time, you're the first time you're like, for me, it was like, yeah, I think that's it. You're kind of like, yeah. I'm pretty sure I love it or I like it.
Right.
The second time you're like, of course, like this is amazing. Like I'm discovering so many things about it, and it's almost unfair because we saw this movie twice in theaters, and good thing we did when we did because now it's out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about it in episode 8, but I mean, the verdict is basically in, and that was a flop, and it's really sad and it's unfortunate, but. People just didn't take to the movie, and I was worried that was going to happen. When you think about it, it's like he adapted a Pynchon novel. Like, of course, we weren't going to take to the movie. It's like Pynchon has like his followers, but I've seen a lot of people people on Twitter like, "Ooh, Pynchon movie's coming out. Everyone's going to pretend that they read Pynchon," and I was like, "No one's going to do that. What are you talking about?" But there's like this snobbiness involved, like, "Ooh." You can't make a Pynchon. Was it Pynchon or Pynchon? Pynchon movie. You can't do Hollywood. And it's like, this isn't like a Hollywood type thing.
Yeah.
It's funny how everyone just kind of like, even though it is kind of a Hollywood made the movie and all that stuff. But it's Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, come on. It's just, I wish people valued filmmakers, like generally speaking. I wish people valued filmmakers the way they value authors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it just seems like people don't care. People don't realize there's someone, especially with Inherent Vice, there's someone who wrote and directed this film and like
movies have become this disposable thing though, where people take them for granted because there's always a new movie coming out, and movies have kind of gotten cheapened where it's not like a necessarily you don't have to necessarily go to the theater to see these things. You don't have to get excited after watching the trailer, because there's you can find it online, you can go get a bootleg, you can do this or that. Like, movies have gotten so cheap over the last, since like the 90s when you got your bootleg tapes, or I don't even know when that whole started, but like during our lifetime, like I remember going into New York City and being surprised that, like, I think it was Godzilla, actually, the movie. We saw it in theaters, the one with Matthew Broderick. I saw a guy on the sidewalk selling that. I was like, how is that, like, for sale? That's in the movies. Like, I thought it was, like, really cool because it was New York. Like, New York gets to have their stuff before little New Jersey. But, I guess that's when it all started. And it's just kind of become this thing where people just, they don't hold movies in as high a regard. At least the majority of people. Looking at like the general public, I was doing some reading about this movie, like what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to go to YouTube comments and stuff like that because it's just people trolling and trying to make people upset. But like the majority of people that were commenting on the trailer, it was like the one that got released to that Vice website. And people are just like, oh, of course it's Vice, like hipsters, this and that, like, and that's not what this movie's. It's not trying to appeal to anything. Like, people were taking the words that were being spoken in the one trailer, like they're weird words because it's Pynchon words, or Pynchon words, and they're like, oh, like they're trying to sound intelligent. People are it's like, why is this movie, like, what is this movie even? Blah, but
people are proud to be stupid these days. That's what it is. People are proud to be. There's an arrogance in this stupidity. I mean, I've kind of accepted that, and like, I linked to you that like Hollywood Reporter article, which I can't read it, but I was like, I don't know if you read it. I just couldn't do it because I was like, I'm not, because I've seen
the Academy voter.
Yeah, because I've seen him in previous years, and like every year I just get angry and angry at this shit. Mm-hmm. But like, and like this time I was like, I can't. I'm not gonna read some race baiting bullshit. So I just didn't even bother.
I don't know if I didn't open what you sent me because I was at work and like I kind of forgot that you texted me that. But I did see a link online. The woman was like talking about how Selma would have been better if it was like a 60-year-old white man because they were like it was. You didn't see that?
I told you I did not. I didn't want to read it. You could talk to it to me.
Yeah,
that way I can.
She was
but yeah,
talking about Selma. She was saying like, yeah, it's a good movie, but like it wasn't as artistic as it could have been or something. And had it been directed by a 60-year-old white man, there would have been more like she was talking about the level of class from the cast and crew because they were wearing like hands up, don't shoot T-shirts on the set. And like, what does that matter?
It doesn't matter
exactly. It's but like that's the society. Like,
if you ever wondered if Hollywood has a race problem, they do. Okay, they do.
Just wanted to touch back to Inherent Vice real quick. I don't know if it's like a major point worthy of like stopping and going back to it, but after that second viewing, this is what I wanted to say before, but I wanted to let you finish your point. After that second viewing, when we finally talked about it, that show went on. I think we talked for like something like 2, maybe 3 hours or something. We just kept going back and forth, kind of uncovering different things. Or no, I think it's with that, and like just is that what that was? Like I love that. I love those kind of movies, and this is that kind of a movie. And anything that I can talk about and not get tired. Like when that conversation was over, I was like, I kind of wanted to talk more. So.
I appreciate that.
With all due respect, I mean, it was nice talking to you, but Ken, it was the subject matter. No offense.
Well, if you were talking about that movie with a YouTube commenter, you wouldn't be wanting to continue that conversation. It took a real master of the conversational form to really let you enjoy such a conversation. But yeah, I agree.
You. Well, thank you.
I don't know. I always feel like I should be thanked for something.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Of course. But that's my number one. That's my number one. You knew it. Anybody who knows me would probably be able to know that as well. So what's yours?
Well, anybody who knows me should probably... not really. I was going to say anyone who knows me should probably know what my number one is. But if you've been following my opinions
which no one has. But let's pretend that people care about what I have to say. Then you'll know what number one is, and it's not surprising, and it's pretty typical. And Justin even mentioned it when he did his list about how because his it wasn't number one on his list, obviously.
Nope.
But and tying this into the whole Oscar thing, which I will do. What I was trying to say before, my number one movie of 2014 is Boyhood. Written and directed by Richard Linklater, starring Eller Coltrane as the boy in this hood. Patricia Arquette is his mother. Ethan Hawke is his brother. I mean, not his brother, his father. I'm just kidding. I always knew it was his father. Then Lorelai Linklater, which is quite the tongue twister, is his sister. Now, look, it's my number one. I knew it was going to be my number one after I saw it in August. I just knew. I knew, and it doesn't happen for me. All right, not to get too sidetracked, but last year my favorite movie was Wolf of Wall Street, and I decided it was my favorite movie of the year on like the last day of 2013. So I had 6 days to think that. I was like, yeah, that's number one. But it was like one of the last movies I saw that year. The year before that, Zero Dark 30 was my favorite movie of 2012. That came out in December.
Yeah.
2011 was the only outlier. Oh, the only other outlier. That was Tree of Life was my favorite movie that year. That came out in like May. So that was like. Then that was another case where I was like, yeah, that's why I could not see any other film topping it. And so we keep going, but like generally speaking, I guess I tend to like favor the last great movie I see. Although maybe it just happens to come out that late, and I agree. And I happen to love it that much, Maybe it's not. Maybe it's coincidental, but what I'm saying is that Boyhood came out in August, and despite all the movies that came out after it, I watching it, I almost felt like every movie I was watching, I was comparing it to how much better is it as good as Boyhood, and I just said no, I couldn't. No, it's not. At least at this point in my life, it's not better than Boyhood. It's not really about better or worse, but like. About how much it made me feel.
Yeah.
And I watched Boyhood the second time, just this past week.
Oh, yeah?
And again, what happens is you're kind of, and here's the problem with a lot of people with Boyhood. You're kind of, look, there's not really much to expect from the film. And now it's gotten to the point where people are like, Boyhood, because everyone's heard to talk about it because it's social media and all that nonsense. And it's really only because of social media and all that bullshit that like, eventually everyone hates every movie. That's what happens. Everyone just hates every movie, and then no one likes anything because we talk about everything online,
Yeah.
And Boyhood is the worst case of that because it's not really. It has a specialness to it because it's shot a couple of days every year for 12 years, which people are tired of hearing about. Like it's not an accomplishment. It's never stopped being an accomplishment. Doesn't matter how many times it's been said.
Yeah.
It's never stopped. It's like. If someone saved a child from a fire, if the house was on fire, oh my God, again with the house on fire and the child, you're like, yeah, it's still a great thing that he did. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But that's what happened. That's what happens with Boyhood. It's like, yes, it matters that this was a project that was conceived over the course of 12 plus years. And that it came out as well as it did. And it has a clear through line. It's not a series of scenes. And watching it a second time, it's clear. This isn't just a series of random scenes. It is a through line. And maybe the through line or the storyline is how each of these characters are growing up. But the movie is about growing up. So it's about all of our lives become like a story. Like if you look through each of our lives, you might be able to find like a story brewing. What's your story? What's my story? We may not even know what it is, but if you look back in the past, you start seeing thematic similarities. Why did I move to California? Why did I move back to my birthplace, Brooklyn, New York? Why do I do the things I do? Everything's inevitably linked and tied to your past somehow, and you can see that in Boyhood. The way, and I discovered this especially the second time I watched it, with the way Mason is just spouting out, and this is another thing that was like the source of ridicule, is how he kind of like spouts out all this stuff about like wanting to quit Facebook and how we're all controlled and all this stuff. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with it?" He grew up to be a hipster doofus or something like that.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, no, he grew up to be like his father, despite the fact that he has this structure. His mother tried so hard to have him grow up the right way and do everything she can to provide for her kids.
Yeah.
I get the sense that Mason is growing up to be just like his father. That's what I think is happening, because maybe he has more structure in his life thanks to his mother. Maybe he won't quite follow the same footsteps, but he's still that like stream of consciousness type talker like his father is. He still has a lot of similarities with his father. He's not really quite sure what he wants to do at age 18.
Yeah.
Probably like his father, and his father took a long time to figure out what he wants to do. And I think there is a dramatic weight there where it's like, wow, what is Mason going to do with his life? Because what if he winds up like his father? Not that it's a bad thing that he winds up like his father, but like it took a long time for his father to figure his shit out.
Yeah.
And it just seems like there's a cycle there, and like, that's for me, that's the through line. That's the dramatic through line that's happening in the film. Other than the fact that he's just growing up year after year. And another thing I want to mention, time, just the way time weighs down the movie, like it just, because when you're watching the first hour or so, and you're watching him grow up as a kid, I think the problem is people like expect something to happen. You know, there's that scene where he's when he's in 8th grade, right, and he's hanging out with the older kids, and they're all throwing things at the wall.
I think something really bad is going to happen.
But it's not that movie. It's not that. That's not the kind of movie that this is supposed to be. And maybe something bad does happen. Maybe he got in trouble with the police. We don't know. He could have. We don't know. Like, maybe it would have been mentioned, but maybe he did some serious shit. But that's not what this movie's about. It's about what you see, and it's also about what you don't see. The stuff that's not there still matters. Like Mason mentions to his father when his father has this minivan. He's like, "I thought I was going to get the car when I turned 16." It's like Pontiac, right? It was a Pontiac.
I don't remember. I've only seen it once, so you're asking the wrong.
It was a pretty sweet ass car that his dad had, and naturally Mason
driving around in the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And naturally Mason wanted that car, and apparently his father promised him that car when he was very young, but his father doesn't remember that happening. And what's funny is that we don't remember that happening because it doesn't take place in the actual movie itself. But that just goes to show you how the things that we don't see are also weighing these characters down too. There's a lot to these characters that we're not seeing that they're bringing to each scene, and there's that element too that I love so much. And so in the beginning it just kind of goes along. You're just kind of watching it, but once his hair starts to grow and he starts to grow and he starts having facial hair and he's starting to drive. I remember because I watched it with my wife. And we had to watch it over the course of 2 days. And we stopped at the moment he's in the dark room with that teacher. I was like, okay, this is a good place to stop. He's like 16 now. But then when I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back and watch him as a kid. I've never felt that way about anything in a movie where I was like, man, I really want to go back and like it's over. Now we're just going to watch him as a teenager, like a late teenager. Like, all the early stuff is gone. Like, and when I was watching it wasn't even like that I was loving the early scenes. It's like, I missed the early scenes. Like, now I miss it. I miss the movie as I'm watching the movie. That's how I was feeling when I was watching it the second time. And I started missing the stuff that I already saw an hour ago. It's like, man, it's like how you miss childhood. I miss the childhood of this kid. But that's from an hour ago, but it feels like so much longer. That's what I'm saying. Time weighs things down. Like, you really feel the time in this movie go by at a certain point. And that's why nothing tops that for me. Because nothing has ever made me feel that way before.
Do you think, though, like, just out of curiosity, is there any chance that the wave of nostalgia that hit you when you were watching those younger Mason scenes, the beginning of the movie, because that's when we grew up, do you think maybe that has something to do with why you missed that, or you wanted to go back to that because you miss your own childhood?
At least with me, and maybe with you, and with a lot of other people, then there's a natural inclination to miss the things like the innocent times.
Yeah.
You know, because now you're gonna watch Mason go through some, well, not really watch him go through some serious shit, but you're gonna watch him like have to like move on to the next part of his life.
Yeah,
and you realize that
of it. Like when things happen to kids, like you give them the benefit of being a kid. You don't fill them in on everything. Like,
right.
all these shitty things are happening. Like you can see the apartment that their dad lives in. He's a struggling musician trying to make it, and he's sleeping on a couch. You know, like you look at that and you can see that that's a shitty situation. But that kid is just there with his dad, and he's just happy to be with his dad.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's so cool. Like watching that one dude, his former roommate. You see him at the end,
Yeah,
and he's playing that song.
Yeah.
He's like, is that Mason? Man. And like, even though I kind of crap on Texas just in general, like, it kind of made me wish, I don't know, there's something to Texas, isn't there, a little bit? At least in Austin, Texas.
Texas is
there's
a
just something
big place. I'm sure it's got a lot to offer a lot of people. It's such a big place, such a diverse place, that you'll find something there for you. I've never been there, but I want to go.
I feel like...
I want to visit Austin.
Yeah.
I want to visit maybe Houston, a couple cities down there.
I'd love to go to Austin during like South by Southwest or something like that, like one of those festivals.
Let's do it.
I'm sure. Let's do it. Yeah. Well, you drive west and I drive east, and as Tom York says, well, it's not the same quote, but somewhere we will meet. Right?
Yeah.
You kind of you get a sense of that culture. Like, okay, this is what's so amazing about this movie is that Linklater's first official film was Slacker. Yeah. And by the end of Slacker, you get a good taste of what Austin, Texas is like in the year 1990 or 1991, which is pretty cool. It's like a time capsule. Okay. I wouldn't say it's a great film, and it's a fascinating debut. I think it's one of the most fascinating debuts of any filmmaker not because it's great, but because it's such a time capsule. You put that movie on, and you're in 1990 or 1991. Like that's how I felt when I was watching it. When I've seen it 3 times by now. With Dazed and Confused, which is one of my all-time... It's, you know, there's a reason why Quentin Tarantino puts it on his, like, all-time list. It's such a great hangout movie, and it's like you're in high school with these guys, you know? It's like you're in middle school or high school with these guys, and you're kind of transported into this world in 1976. With Boyhood, I really felt like I kind of understood Texas more. Maybe, like, not the state or, like, but I just... That culture and yeah,
I got that too because like it's easy to kind of hate on Texas like because of the politics and all that shit. Like you hear Texas, red state, Bush, this and that, and you kind of write off Texas as like coming from the Northeast, coming from New Jersey and New York and stuff like that. You're like Texas, like nothing but a bunch of rednecks and hicks down there. But like it's ignorant to look at a whole state like that and just write them off. Like you've got a Mexican influence. You've got yeah, I can't talk about Texas because I've never been there. So I don't.
At the drive-in / Mars Volta came from Texas, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. El Paso. Yeah, they did. They came from El Paso, Texas. 3 basketball teams. No, I'm just kidding.
But hey, 2 very notable filmmakers who made 2 of the best movies of the year this year are from Texas. Richard Linklater and Wes Anderson.
That's
Anderson went to... Linklater didn't go to UT Austin, but he did... Well, he was part of the Austin Film Society. And Wes Anderson went to UT Austin where he met Owen Wilson. And that's how that started. This kid... So, like, yeah, there's very... Obviously, it's kind of silly to say, but there's very thoughtful people who come from Texas. I'm sorry, Texans. What an ass of me to say that.
You wouldn't.
Of course, there is.
There are thoughtful people from Texas.
I know, but it just goes to show you, like, there's George W. Bush, and then there's Wes Anderson. Like, that's how diverse that state is. Where it's a great thing, and you kind of wonder, like, how Wes Anderson's Texasness fits into his worldview.
You would think he's like from Connecticut or something. Like some really rich.
I think Bottle Rocket probably is the most. Oh my god, am I getting a lisp and I don't even know it? Yeah, I think so. Because I think it's shot in Texas.
I think so too. It probably has to be because that's when he's first starting. He didn't have any money to shoot anywhere else. But
I think it's the only film he shot in Texas.
But yeah, you really get that sense like when they're at the hotel, where they're just kind of hanging out at the hotel for a couple days. I don't know, like that kind of gets like they're outside a lot. Maybe that's why. But
But I think that's also what tells you about the diversity of Texas is that Linklater and Anderson, even though they're from Texas, they couldn't be more different of filmmakers. Whereas a lot of New York City filmmakers, they're different, but they kind of tell versions of the same story. Like Woody Allen, Martin Scorsese, Spike Lee, like they are different filmmakers clearly. But New York films there's always like this similarity. Like they have to shoot their movies in New York for some reason. You know what I mean? Like there's that New Yorkness that can't be denied. That it's part of them. Whereas like with Linklater and Anderson, even though Linklater shoots in Texas a lot, they couldn't be more different from each other. They both obviously have a great deal of respect for their own craft, and I think Linklater's craft is underrated. I think because he's such a laid-back filmmaker, people don't realize how meticulously crafted these films are. But he's up, you know, as far as craft is concerned, he knows what he's doing, obviously.
Well, yeah, like people at this point are tired of hearing about the 12-year time span for this movie, like you said. But it's like I thought about this when you were talking about how this movie is all about the growth of this young kid. 12 years is a long time, and for him to tell not the same story, but to stay in that same frame of mind after he himself grew, Linklater, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Over a decade, he's able to go back. Like I'm wondering what kind of a process you had to go mentally to be like, all right, this is where we left off, like 5 years ago for whenever last time we were shooting, and I have to get back in that frame of mind so that we can keep telling the same story. Otherwise, there's going to be a shift in the tone of this movie.
Right.
That says a lot about how like you'd have to be a devoted, meticulous kind of a filmmaker to be
exactly.
able to craft something like that. I mean, and that's why it's so easy to overlook, is you take that for granted when you're just watching.
Yeah, because he's able to make these films feel so laid back, but you can't naturally make a laid back film. Like you have to know how to approach that style. I think one day, whenever his next movie comes out, I think we should really look into Linklater, like really deeply, because I think he deserves it. I think he's at the point of his career. He's been around for almost 25 years now, from Slacker to Boyhood. We've seen. I think I've seen Boyhood enough, so I don't have to watch it again. But I think that Linklater deserves an entire show because you got Slacker, you got Dazed and Confused, you had the Before trilogy. Then you have as a mainstream period with the School of Rock and Bad News Bears, which was an interesting flop, yeah, at least, you know. But
I always forget that he made School of Rock. That's funny.
Yeah, but in some ways it's not that surprising, just the way of how great the child actors are in that film. And it's also kind of a laid-back film. Linklater and Anderson, I think they both are kind of like big kids. You know, they're kind of like Anderson's more of like a refined, but like you see Anderson really loves to stay in touch with his childhood or like nostalgia. You know, there's this really sense of nostalgia when it comes to Anderson's films, and there is that with Linklater. Linklater is even more pronounced in his nostalgia. You know,
you could look at like those two as kids, Anderson and Linklater, and they probably had a lot in common. But Linklater had a messy room, and Anderson had a very clean room.
Probably, and Linklater had a bunch of boxes full of like, you know, stuff from his past, and you know what I've thought about how great it would be if my house was lit by like a great cinematographer. You know, they would know how to get everything exactly perfect. Like Roger Deakins, you know, who makes the Coen Brothers movies. Like it would just look so beautiful, and you're like, oh my god, I live in the most beautiful house ever. Thank you. I don't know. Anyway, so that's our. So it's a pretty interesting list. I mean, we had a lot of similarities there. Inherent Vice, Budapest, Boyhood, Gone Girl, Under the Skin, Nightcrawler. 6. Again, 6. People are going to think that we have similar tastes or something like that.
What do you mean again 6? What was the last thing?
The Decades list has 6.
We had 6 in common on the Decades list?
Yeah, it's kind of... Hopefully next year we'll have more divergent opinions. I mean, not that we have to, but it'll be more interesting, you know? In fact... let me tell you what, like, my...
Hold on, real quick. Back to Boyhood, though. Just curious, like, your take on that one scene in the dark room we were talking about. Did, that guy's acting, did that kind of, like, annoy you a little bit? Because I was kind of thinking... I just didn't really like that. It kind of took me out of it a little bit.
What do you mean?
The way he was like, do you know where you're going, Mason? Do you know what you're doing?
I felt... It's just... Like, I think that was just his accent. I don't know. You know what? I will say this, though, about Boyhood. We talk about on the nose, and I think even
I'll be the first one to agree that there are some scenes of Boyhood that are a little too on the nose, but the greatness totally outweighs all that shit. I didn't even think about this like when I first saw it. The scene where that Mexican guy shows up, like comes up to Patricia Arquette's character and her family, and he's like, "You made me want to go back to school and all that stuff." It didn't even
the restaurant, yeah.
It didn't bother me the first time. I thought, "Oh, that's cool," you know. And then months, not coming months. Oh my god, the white person had to help him. Yada yada yada. And I was like, "That's not what the movie's saying." It what? Why does that always have to be the case every time that happens? Like, hasn't the movie earned that? Like, there aren't that many. It's just it's all part of it. It ties in thematically. And when I watched it the second time, like I was kind of thinking about how people talk about this scene before, but I was thinking about how touching it is for her character. How like, you know, her kids are both like going away, and she's made a mark on this kid's life, this Mexican, but she doesn't know what kind of mark she's making on her own kid's life. I thought that was a really touching moment. And so, yeah, I mean, there are some on-the-nose things, and, you know, I'm not going to... I mean, it's tough, because I'm sure Linklater, it seems like he employed a lot of, like, local actors in that film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you get the luck of the draw. Sometimes they're great actors. I mean, there's a one scene where, he gets bumped by some other kids in the bathroom, which has actually happened to me before. And they're like, What are you going to do? And he's like, And, well, it didn't happen to be exactly that way. But this one time, I almost bumped into a kid in the high school bathroom.
Right.
And then I started washing my hands. And then they laughed at me because I was washing my hands. They're like, who washes their hands in the bathroom? And I was like, oh my God, I gotta wash my hands again. Like, seriously? Like, I was like 14. And they're like, oh, freshman washing his hands. I was like, no, like, regular human being who has a sense of cleanliness and cares about not getting germs spread everywhere. Think of it that way. I think Boyhood gives kids too much credit. You know what I mean? But one more thing I have to say, though.
Yeah.
Even though I was going to move on, now you got me stuck on this. I was racking my brain. There's this one kid in the movie that appears in two scenes. He appears in the one scene where they're throwing shit, and like he was
house.
Yeah,
the house that's under construction.
Yeah, he had that longish hair, and he was talking about like, you know, banging chicks and all that stuff.
Right.
And he kind of had like that slow drawl and like that kind of spaciness. You know, he's like, yeah.
Was it the kid that was Mason's friend, or was it the older kid?
It was the older kid, not the short haired kid, but the longer haired kid.
Yeah. Then
he appears again when Mason's making out in the back seat of that like station wagon, and he's a driver of that car. I was like, who that kid? Oh my God! There's no way that kid's been in anything else, because I thought almost everybody in that movie was like local actors, except for like the obvious big names.
Yeah.
Then I look it up. He was in The Descendants. He was the kid in The Descendants, Shailene Woodley's boyfriend. And I was like, holy shit, that's the kid. What? The Descendants?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
George Clooney. Remember they have that scene together? Like George Clooney thinks he's an idiot. And he's kind of an idiot. And like, but I'm thinking like, okay, when did they shoot Boyhood? And when did they shoot The Descendants? Like, because I'm watching Boyhood like 3 years after The Descendants came out, but I'm seeing a kid who is like, he's in this movie, but he's younger in this movie than he was in Descendants. Probably. It's like, it just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like going back in time a little bit. Recap of my list from 10 to 1. My favorite movies of 2014. Only Lovers Left Alive at number 10. At number 9, we have Whiplash. Nightcrawler at number 8. At number 7, Under the Skin. At number 6, Gone Girl. Boyhood at number 5. At number 4, Birdman. The Grand Budapest Hotel is my number 3. My number 2 is A Most Violent Year. And my number 1 film in 2014, Inherent Vice.
Here's my list. Here is my list. 1 to 20. All right. Although, is it less? You already know what the... Okay. Number 1, Boyhood. Number 2, Under the Skin. Number 3, Nightcrawler. Number 4, Selma. Number 5, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Number 6, Inherent Vice. Number 7, Ida. Number 8, Gone Girl. Number 9, The Immigrant. Number 10, Obvious Child. Okay? Now here's 11 to 20. Number 11, Locke. Ivan Locke. Tom Hardy in his car.
That was up there with me too. It was one of my honorable mentions, close to very good. Very well could have made my top 10.
Number 12, 2 Days, One Night, the Dardenne brothers film. Another foreign film. Belgian-made, French-speaking.
Oh, Marion Cotillard?
Yep.
I wish I'd seen it. I really wanted to see that one this year.
Fantastic. 13.
You're such an ass.
No, I mean, it's fantastic.
I thought you were being, like, sarcastic.
Fantastic. All right. To each their own, bitch. Number 13, Calvary. John Michael McDonough directed it. Brendan Gleeson stars in it. He plays a priest in Ireland who gets threatened. His life gets threatened. They're in a confession, and the guy's like, I'm going to kill you by the end of the week. And he has to, like, live the next 7...
I heard about this.
Yeah, it's good.
An interesting plot.
Number 14, Whiplash. Damien Chazelle directed it. We talked about it. Number 15, here we go. 22 Jump Street. Yeah, I liked it that much. You hated it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a great send-up of comedy sequels. I thought the ending, just the way they approached the ending, it was the sequel after sequel. I thought it was a very inspired, hilarious film. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who also directed Lego Movie, which is also on this list. Yeah. I thought they had a fantastic year, and I think that they are bright, young filmmakers, and I'm really excited to see what they do, because you know what they do? They take these properties, 21 Jump Street should not have worked. The Lego Movie should not have worked, and yet they make them work somehow. They have this energy to them, and I just think that they make these fantastic movies, and I'm going to make my point, and I'm going to move on before Justin can say anything. Number 16,
I don't want to say anything, but no, stop. Because I didn't hate it.
You thought it was the worst?
No, I thought American Sniper was the worst. I just didn't think I wasn't that impressed. I wasn't nearly as impressed as you were, and that's my problem, and I'm gonna work on it. Okay?
No, it's okay. It's not your problem. I think maybe we have just slightly different senses of humor when it comes to movies. I don't know. I liked its brand of silliness. I thought it had the right form of silliness. Did you watch it by yourself or something?
No, I watched it with my sister and my girlfriend.
Did you guys all hate it?
No, they liked it.
Good. Yeah, they know what they're... I mean, it's okay that you have your opinion, but good. Number 16. I'm just going to... Whatever. It's fine, Justin. No, don't worry about it. We got to move on. Number 16. A Most Violent Year, J.C. Chandor. Number 17. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, my favorite blockbuster film of the year.
Yeah, that was good.
We hadn't really talked about many blockbusters, but Dawn of the Planet of the Apes... I mean, just how they were able to make the ape story so dramatic and compelling. I just thought that was incredible. Number 18, the Lego Movie. Again, Phil Lord, Chris Miller. Would have been higher if it was earlier in 2014. I really loved it. But then watching it a couple more times, it just didn't. It lost its luster a little bit,
Yeah,
so.
I can see that, but it was one of my favorites of the year. I would definitely put that on my top 15, top 20.
Number 19, A Most Wanted Man. It's tough, Philip Seymour Hoffman gave such a great performance, and it's such a great slow burn of a film. They're very deliberate and everything like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Won't let myself see it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me know if you see it. Let me know if it. Let me know how you feel. And then finally, number 20 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought it really is a fantastic blockbuster.
It deserves it. Yeah, it deserves to be there. It's one of my favorites of the year.
Here's what didn't make the list, but I'll just mention them anyway.
Go ahead.
They Came Together. Thought that was hilarious with Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. Mr. Turner. Maybe I need to give it another look. It didn't quite click with me. The Mike Lee film, shot by Dick Poop. Blue Ruin. I thought I was gonna like it more. I thought it was pretty good, and I finally got to watch it on Netflix. It has its obvious moments where it's it's inspired, and I think it has a great black comedy and Coen Brothers X stuff. You know what? I would say it's the most Coen Brothers film not directed by the Coen Brothers. It felt like Blood Simple. It felt like an early Coen Brothers film. So that's what I'll say about it. The Theory of Everything. I was surprised that I actually liked it as much as I did, even though it would be number 27 of the year. I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad. I like this. Edge of Tomorrow. Another really solid blockbuster. Didn't love it as much as some other people. Some people really loved it. I didn't really love it like other people do. but I think it's really entertaining. Frank, Michael Fassbender in a giant paper mache head.
I saw it. Yeah,
it was almost number 20, but I had to give the edge to Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think it's such a great commentary about it's such an anti-musical type film because it's you think this guy's gonna join the band, he's gonna like make the band better, but he makes the band worse, and like because of that, it kind of sours your expectations. You're like, wait a minute, where's this movie going? But the more I think about it, the more inspired I think the movie is. I think it really is. And again, maybe if I saw it again, I might like it even more. And I think Michael Fassbender is absolutely incredible in it. And it's so great to see him in like that kind of style of a film. I want to see.
You never see him like that. That's true.
I want to see Fassbender in more comedies. And then finally, Snowpiercer and Foxcatcher. Foxcatcher is really outside the top 20 for me. I feel like I had to mention it because it is a pretty good drama. It's pretty solid. But again, I've talked about my problems with it. I don't think it's and I also last two things. Godzilla, we saw that together. It's funny how it's kind of really brushed aside, but
that's right. Yeah.
I will say I think a lot of people kind of shit on it. I'm surprised by how many people shit on that movie because I thought it was really well done. It
was well done, exactly.
And then Noah, maybe if Noah, I saw it again, I might actually like it. I feel like I might actually like it a lot more if I saw it again. It was just a little too weird for me to actually put on my list, but I think it's weird in a good way. You think it's going to be this biblical epic, but it has like this weirdness to it, and the familial drama at the second half of the film, like that was some intense shit, and that's why I want to see it again because like maybe that will really click with me more again. The only reason why it didn't really click with me the first time is because Russell Crowe's performance felt a little too wooden for me.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think Aronofsky. I think it's a very inspiring stuff. Yeah, I'll give it its due credit, So that's my
named a bunch of movies. There, a lot of the ones that you've mentioned are ones that were on my list of movies that I wish that I had an opportunity to catch up with.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that you didn't mention that I thought you might, Force Majeure.
Mm-hmm.
Listen Up, Philip. I wanted to see this really bad. Did you ever get a chance to see it?
No, I gotta get on that too. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. What else? Dear White People. I didn't get a chance to see that.
Oh, I Redboxed it. I'm in the midst of watching it. I'm like halfway done. I'm gonna watch the rest of it tonight.
Cool. Top 5?
Yep. Saw it in theaters.
Not a fan.
It was pretty good. It wasn't worth honorable mention, but it's not bad. Yeah.
And Life Itself, is that 2013 or 2014?
2014. Came out last.
Did you see it?
What?
Did you see it?
Yeah, but I have a weird thing about documentaries. I don't really know how to fit them into narrative. I feel like narrative films and documentaries, they do different things. Obviously, I don't know. I see sometimes when people like put documentaries on like best films and it makes sense. They're all films. But for me, I don't know. I approach documentaries differently. Okay. So I don't know. But Life Itself is a fantastic documentary.
All right, I guess to close this out, I'll just say the 5 that I had 5 movies on my honorable mentions list: Selma, Guardians of the Galaxy, Locke, The Immigrant, and the Lego Movie.
All right, I think
so. That's that. That's 2014.
That's that. I really wish we recorded a proper conclusion to our 2014 wrap-up episode, but unfortunately it just ended with me saying that's that. Once again, we were really trying to do both our 2014 episode and our 2015 preview episode in the same episode. That did not work out. We should probably just stick to like one topic per episode from now on. And when it's the top 10, we should probably assume we're not going to be able to fit all of it in one episode. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this. That's the end of episode 11 and the end of our top 10 of 2014. Stay tuned for episode 12 where we do our 2015 preview. Thank you very much.